In this video, the goal is that we're going to help you to understand why we are using rubrics and how that they are used, and how you as a parent or a student could be using them as well. So why are we using rubrics? Well, research has shown that rubrics will allow for more consistency. So if either you have teacher A and teacher B teaching the same course, we are now going to have a student could go into either class and do the same work and in theory come out with the same grade at the end. We like to think that we were consistent in the past in the 100-point scale, but it wasn't. Teachers assigned partial credit for different things. Teachers created a different hierarchy of levels of understanding within their own test questions. They weighted things differently. With a rubric, we are all using the same scale. So therefore, the same work should be provided the same grade. And we do a lot of common grading amongst the teachers to make sure that we are all understanding the rubric the same way. You can also track growth with a rubric. Because we are using the same scale to grade every assessment for a particular outcome, you can actually see if you are improving or not. Whereas you were unable to do this in the 100-point system because you might have done a quiz partway through a unit and you might have scored 100%, but you'd only done a couple pieces of information, and then you complete that unit and you write the unit exam and you get a 75. It looks like you've actually lost what you first understood. You went from 100 to a 75, but they were different scales. That first 100% was only on a small part of that unit. Whereas here, with the rubric, if we were to quiz you halfway through the outcome, you might only be able to score a maximum of a level 2.5. You might be perfect on the entire assessment, but because of the rubric did not test all pieces of it, your score is not going to be a 4. You're going to be where you fit on that rubric, but therefore you are allowed to see growth. A student knows what their mark means. So if you have a level 2, you can go to the rubric and you can read what is in a level 2 and it tells you what it was that you did. You also know what you need to be able to do to improve. So if you had a level 2 and you want to be a level 3, you go to that rubric again and then you read what is in the level 3. And you now know what it is that you need to work on so you can improve your score. So we have a general math assessment rubric. And this has been our guiding rubric for all of our specific ones. At the red level, this is intervention. We're saying you can do it because all students can do it, but we need to spend some extra time with the criteria and ask for help. At this stage, you are still wondering. We're still figuring this out. At the instructional level, so in our yellow box, we have a good start happening. You are beginning to make sense of this on your own, and you are consistent with the basic learning goals for this outcome. So there is some consistency with the basic levels of understanding for that particular outcome, but you still need some help. In the blue box, you're at the independent stage. You've done it and you did it on your own. You are able to complete the processes for this outcome. So this is your target learning skills for math, for that particular goal. Your work is thorough and consistently accurate. You've got it. In the green box, we're at the mastery or deep understanding level. Great work is happening. This work is going extra well for you. You have understood the outcome. So you haven't just done any memorization, but you've understood the outcome. You're able to explain your strategies and apply these to situations. Your work is accurate. You're connecting and you're applying. So those are the levels that have guided all of our specific rubrics. And here's what a specific rubric looks like. So this one comes from the Foundations of Math 30 course. So here's the outcome number that aligns to the curriculum put out by the Ministry of Education in Saskatchewan. And this is what the ministry document says. So we're demonstrating understanding of financial decision making, including analysis of, and it lists 4 things. Sometimes we have felt that that is still too broad because part of our goal with rubrics and assessing by outcome is communication. We want you to know what you're understanding and what you still need to work on. So sometimes we have done what we've chunked that outcome from the ministry into 2 parts. And as you can see here, we've named them 30.1a and 30.1b. So it still comes from 30.1, but now we've called it Part A and Part B. And we've then separated the ministry outcome into 2 parts. And in this particular one, we split it from interest problems or investment problems to borrowing problems. What you will notice then is there is 4 columns, your red, yellow, blue, and green. So your intervention, instructional, independence, and mastery. And we've identified, you can almost call it a checklist of things that you will be able to do. And we've written it in a language so that when the student is reading it, they're reading what they can do. All of our intervention levels are I need more help with becoming consistent with the criteria. We're not specifying what a level 1 skill would be. You just simply need more help or you need to become more consistent. In our instructional level here, for the example in this one, it says I can determine the value of a missing variable in a simple or compound interest problem. So if the student wants to be a level 2, they need to be able to make sure that they can do that. And we will have practiced it and the teachers will have shown examples of what this is. And so if they are doing their review and they can find the value of a missing variable in a simple or compound interest problem, they can say, I'm going to be level 2. I know I can do this. I want to move to a level 3. So let me see what I need to be able to do to be a level 3. I can answer questions based on compound interest questions. For example, find the interest earned, the rate of return, rank investments, compare investments. Okay, I'm going to practice those things and I'm going to be able to make sure that I can do all of them. I can use the rule of 72. Okay, I forget what that is, so I now know I need to go back and I need to learn it before the test. I can graph an investment and analyze the graph. Okay, I'm going to go through all my practice and I'm going to make sure I know how to do that. And I can calculate the value of a basic investment portfolio. Again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at those questions and I'm going to make sure I understand those. So it's a checklist. A student can review for an assessment off of the rubric simply by reading what each statement says. Okay, great. I want to be level 4. Well, let me read what's in level 4. I can calculate the value of a complex investment portfolio. Okay, these ones are going to be a little bit harder. I'm going to have to go through and I'm going to have to practice these because I want to be a 4. I can compare investment portfolios and make recommendations. I'm going to make sure I've looked through that in that I understand what an investment portfolio is and what kind of recommendations I would be making in these. And I can demonstrate my understanding of what it means to be financially literate. All right, so maybe I need to do a little bit of reading. Maybe I need to read through my notes, go through what we talked about in class on financially literate. So there's your checklist. Now you can see, you can prepare for your test, and you know what all the things are that you need to practice from. It works the same way when you get an assessment back and you get a score on it, and you want to improve to get better. You can now look at your test, go through and check off which parts you got correct, and circle the ones that you still need to work on, and now review those for the next time you are assessing that outcome. Sometimes the rubric hasn't been chunked into parts because we have felt that it's easy enough to communicate what is there right from what the ministry gave us. So again, your ministry document, the outcome number, and so now we have not broken it up, but we've put it into a little bit more student-friendly terms because the ministry documents are sometimes a little wordy and confusing. And again, our level 1, our intervention, is just need more help becoming consistent. Here we have a checklist again. You want to be a level 2, make sure you know all of these pieces of terminology. Practice those. To be a level 3 again, all of these bullets, you go through and you practice them to make sure you understand them. Same thing with the level 4. So the rubric really is a communication tool for parents and students. And we need to be using it more often in preparing for the assessment versus after the assessment is written. Students have access to these all the time. They are posted on the website. If you go to the Carleton homepage and you click on Students, once you are onto the student page, you will then go down to Departments, and you'll click on Departments, and then you are going to find the Math department. And once you are in the Math department, under the courses, choose which course it is that you're taking. I'm taking Foundations of Math. So I'm going to click on that. I'm then taking Foundations 20. And so now I can open up the rubric. And the rubric is there for you. All of the outcomes are listed. All of the checklists are there. So you have access to this at any time. So use it as a review tool before you write the assessment. Now, just to kind of show you, because there's a misconception out there that these rubrics are harsh. The assessment is harsh because you can make one mistake and get a level 1. That might happen, it's rare. Typically what we do, in order to get a level 2, you need to demonstrate consistency in all of the skills and questions at level 2. So that's what this person has done. All of the level 2 questions are correct. They're definitely at a level 2. Level 3, and on an assessment, they're typically leveled like this, so students know which are which. They've done all of the level 3. Great, we've done all of the 2, all of the 3, we're definitely at a 3. But in the level 4, the students struggled. They were unable to apply it, to make that connection. Remember from our general rubric, it was making a connection. So they had to use the checkpoint, which means they asked the teacher to give them the equation. Because of that, this student, and they were unable to verify or interpret, this student is just at a level 3 of understanding. All right, so they've done all the 2s, they've done all the 3s. You might say, but they did something in the 4 here. Yes, they did something in the 4. However, the teacher had to give them the first, which was part of the 4. That's the applying and connecting. What they did here was solving. That's actually just a level 3 skill. So this student would have just been at level 3. If we look at this one here, this student has all the level 2 correct. So we're definitely at a level 2. They do not have any of the level 3, but they did do all of the level 4. So some people ask, well, why aren't they a 4 then? Well, at this point in time, the level 4 did not test all of the skills. It was an apply, it was a connect, they had to interpret a question, but they didn't test the fractional pieces. And that's what the student was unable to do. But here is where our half levels come in. They were a 2, and then they did part of the 3 and or 4. They were successful with all of the 4. So I can give them a level 2.5. They want to be a 4, they're going to have to learn how to solve with fractions. So here's one of those where the misconception comes out. At the level 2 stage, there was an error. However, this student is actually going to get a level 2 because what we do as teachers then is we look at the error that was made. Was it a process and an understanding error, or was it a calculation error? And the student actually made a calculation error. They multiplied 2 times 6.5 incorrect. But their process of solving that equation was perfectly fine. So at the level 2, they do have a basic understanding. They were unable to do any of the 3 or 4, so we would give them a level 2. And the last one that we will look at again. So here again is a misunderstanding. Some people have had where they have had one mistake in a level 2 and gotten a 1.5. And yes, that will occur very rarely. And what has happened is that mistake at the level 2 was a specific skill that was in that level 2 box where it says I can do something, and it was not shown in any of the questions at the 3 or 4. So in that case, we do have to give the 1.5 on that particular assessment. The good news is it's recoverable. The student can learn that, come back and write it, and show improvement, and then that 1.5 doesn't affect their current level. It's not averaged in like it would have been in the past. And if some people are wondering, well, why can't you just give the 3.5? Well, you know what? If you give a 1.5 with the note that it's just this one particular piece, a student is actually going to learn that piece. Versus if they had a 3.5, they're more inclined to say, yay, I'm good, I know it, and never go back and touch on that. So it is a learning tool as well. But in this particular case, again, there was an error made in that question, but the student demonstrated understanding with fractions consistently later on. Do they know how to do fraction in equations? Absolutely they do. Something happened on that first initial question. So at this point, without any going back and talking to the student, this one would get a 3.5 because that skill was shown again later on as being able to be done, and it was done consistently. So I hope that that helps you understand the rubrics, and if you have any more questions, please do not hesitate to talk to your student's teacher.